pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Bill Carlos, 2nd Ward.
Michael Safone, 4th Ward.
Stefan Cracker, 5th Ward.
Ann Shershin, 6th Ward.
Todd Tancredi, Supervisor.
Alicia Salvatore, Town Clerk.
Jim Nelson, Attorney for the Town.
All right, we have a number of public hearings on the agenda tonight, but with the town board's permission, I'd like to move item number 6 up to the top of the agenda. We have a promotion of one of our police officers.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
So we'll go to number 6 first.
Be it resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Poughkeepsie does hereby authorize the promotion of Police Officer Russell P. Tompkins to the position of Police Sergeant effective October 20th, 2014, which promotion is subject to probationary period of not less than 8 weeks, nor more than 26 weeks per civil service law. Be it further resolved that the Town Supervisor is authorized to execute and file all documents required by Dutchess County Department of Human Resources in connection with this promotion. So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? I'm not sure we should go through with this promotion. I don't know how we're going to replace him. Russ is certainly a machine out on the streets, and he and his partner in the traffic division, I think, make a great team. So he certainly deserves this promotion, but he's going to be a big loss in terms of the traffic enforcement. And I know you'll still be out there doing that type of work. But his work ethic and commitment is certainly to be admired. So we just wanted to say that. So we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Now we'll let the room empty out. And Kenny, you want to stay, don't you?
Yeah.
It was 5-0, by the way, not that it matters.
I know, I'm off tonight with my
It
numbers.
was 5-0.
Wow, a lot of people.
That was a good thing to do. Hey, you know who's second? Who's second to promotion?
Mike.
Mike did.
All right, we'll move on to our public hearings. I'd like to make a motion to open public hearing number 1, property maintenance at 44 Wendy Drive.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Is there anyone here to speak to this public hearing, 44 Wendy Drive? Seeing no one, I make a motion to close public hearing number 1.
Second.
All those in
Second.
favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Mike?
Be resolved, Town Board, Town of Poughkeepsie, pursuant to a public hearing held on October 15, 2014, at 7 p.m. at the Town Hall, Town of Poughkeepsie, 1 Over Rocker Road, Poughkeepsie, New York, under Chapter 159 of the Town of Poughkeepsie Code entitled Property Maintenance, does hereby determine that the said property located at 44 Wendy Drive, Poughkeepsie, County of Dutchess, State of New York, bearing grid number 61590462318, owned by Kathy and Edmund Ryan, is in violation of Chapter 159, and be it further resolved that the legal notice of public hearing was posted on October 1st, 2014, and published in the Poughkeepsie Journal on October 3rd, 2014. And be it further resolved that said determination is based on the presentation and report submitted at the public hearing by the Town of Poughkeepsie zoning administrator. And be it further resolved that said owner of 44 Wendy Drive has not complied with the orders to remedy. And be it further resolved that the town shall cause the removal of all solid waste, debris, litter, garden waste, fallen tree limbs, and shall cut and continue to cut the grass to a height not to exceed 6 inches, and any continued maintenance thereafter if the premises continues not to be properly maintained. And be it further resolved that the charges shall be sent to the registered owners of said property for reimbursement. And be it further resolved that if said costs and disbursements are not reimbursed within 30 days of the bill, said charges shall be added to the next state, county, and town tax bill pursuant to the provisions of Section 159-13 of the Town Code, and shall become a lien on the property and filed with the Dutchess County Clerk and the Dutchess County Commissioner of Finance. And be it further resolved that the Highway Department or an appointed contractor is authorized to cut and continue to cut the grass to a height not to exceed 6 inches, and to remove and continue to remove all garden waste and fallen tree limbs, solid waste, debris, and litter. So moved.
Motion is second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Next, I'd like to open public hearing number 2, property maintenance 28 Millbank.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Is there anyone here to speak to this public hearing? Doreen?
I just had a question. Number 2 on here says 28 Millbank, but the resolution that was posted online said, for number 2, said 6 Magnolia.
We're going to read 28 Millbank into the resolution. It was just a mistake.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody else? Seeing no one, I make a motion to resume the rules. Close
Second.
public hearing. All those in favor?
Aye.
Stefan? 28
Be it
Millbank.
resolved, the Town Board of the Town of Poughkeepsie, pursuant to a public hearing held on October 15, 2014, at 7 o'clock p.m. at the Town Hall, Town of Poughkeepsie, 1 Over Rock Road, Poughkeepsie, New York, under Chapter 159 of the Town of Poughkeepsie Code, entitled Property Maintenance, does hereby determine that said property located at 28 Millbank Road, Poughkeepsie, County of Dutchess, State of New York, bearing grid number 6160-03-685315, owned by Grace A. Colleton, is in violation of Chapter 159. And be it further resolved that the legal notice of public hearing was posted on October 1, 2014, and published in the Poughkeepsie Journal on October 3, 2014. And be it further resolved that said determination is based on the presentation report submitted at the public hearing by the Town of Poughkeepsie zoning administrator. And be it further resolved that said owner of 28 Millbank Road has not complied with the orders to remedy. And be it further resolved that the town shall cause the removal of all arden, waste, fallen tree limbs, and shall cut and continue to cut the grass to a height not to exceed 6 inches, and any continued maintenance thereafter if the premises continues not to be properly maintained. And be it further resolved that the charges shall be sent to the registered owner of said property for reimbursement. And be it further resolved that if said costs and disbursements are not reimbursed within 30 days of this bill, said charges shall be added to the next state, county, and town tax bill pursuant to the provisions of Section 159-13 of the Town Code, and shall become a lien against property and filed with the Dutchess County Clerk and the Dutchess County Commissioner of Finance. And be it further resolved that the Highway Department or an appointed contractor is authorized to cut and continue to cut the grass to a height not to exceed 6 inches, and to remove and continue to remove all garden waste and fallen tree limbs, solid waste, debris, and litter. So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion?
Yeah, I was wondering what ardent waste was, but
I was hoping you knew.
that's garden waste. All right. It all makes sense now. Drop a G here and there.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Public, Jay, you voted on that? 6-0. Number 3 has been withdrawn, so we'll go right to public hearing number 4. I'd make a motion to open public hearing number 4, Community Block Grant for 2015.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, we have a couple gentlemen here to give us a little idea of the project that's being considered and applied for. If you'd both like to state your name.
Sure. I'm Tom Meyering, the Town Parks and Recreation Director.
Scott Williams, the Village Grant Writer for Wappingers Falls.
Thanks for both of you for coming.
Before I start, do you want me to explain a little bit about what the Community Development Block Grant is? For
I guess fairly briefly,
Sure.
We're pretty familiar with that, but go ahead.
Okay, the Community Development Block Grant is a grant that's administered by the County Planning Department. It has very limited areas where it's eligible to be, projects are eligible to be undertaken under. Generally, those are areas with a low to moderate income in the census block, low to moderate income areas. Also, projects that are handicapped, for handicapped accessibility, or particularly just for the elderly. I reviewed my parks to see if any were eligible. I had 2 that were somewhat eligible, but projects they'd be Over Rocker Park and Sheaf Road Park. Projects in them had some problems when it comes to the guidelines of the grant. So Speaking with Supervisor Tancredi, we were approached by the Village of Wappingers Falls to join with them in a grant, and I'll turn it over to Scott to explain that.
All right. So the project title is the Lower Wappinger Creek Mid-Hudson River Paddle Sport Center. And the grant is a $285,000 request from the county to construct a paddle sports center for kayaking, canoeing, potentially crew fishing, and paddle boarding. The facility would be jointly operated through an intermunicipal agreement between the town of Wappinger, whose board has already passed a resolution to go in on this application, the Village of Wappingers Falls, and the town of Poughkeepsie. We really feel like we have a one-of-a-kind resource with Lower Wappinger Creek. It's calm, it's shallow, it's perfect for novice aquatic recreational enthusiasts. And there are a tremendous amount of natural resources surrounding the park, surrounding the creek, from Reese Park in the town of Wappinger to all the parks around New Hamburg, highlighted on the map in the back of the package in the manila folder in front of you. So we feel like through the construction or the adaptive reuse of the village's old highway garage on 105 Market Street, down along the creek where this building would be turned into this boating center, having a structure there dedicated solely to recreation would do a lot toward getting all of these parks used, or more usership, and the river or the creek itself more properly utilized.
Would this be a bring your own kayak, or could you rent one down there?
The idea or the plan is to have rentals, not only rentals, but tours, lessons. The Joe Ennisser from the Greenway Committee has already donated two, I guess they're lockers for kayaks. So right now, assuming we get this grant and we get the building suitable, it would be bring your own until the intermunicipal agreement is devised and we start to plan this program out, the shared recreational program.
And the building's perfectly located. It's right on the creek. I mean, you literally walk out the door. The creek is there, and Scott said down there, it's a very calm area. So, you know, even I could get out there in a kayak and not, get swept in the current. So I think it's a great spot. Intermunicipal. Even me. I mean, but in terms of municipal cooperation and sharing, I think the village, the town, and the two towns, we've kind of been at this for a long time through Trimuni, which many of you are familiar with, our sewer plant down in the south end, and so it would be an extension of kind of that relationship, and it's a good working relationship, I think. So hopefully the county would see this as a favorable application, and we could get to work on putting together the intermunicipal agreement and start the process. Any questions from anyone?
I agree. I think it makes sense. It's a good idea to take a resource that's there and bring it to more the general public. Because a lot of times the people that really are into that sport will be out there using it, but the rest of the world doesn't even realize that it's an opportunity. So I think it's a good thing. You go to a lot of different communities, you see these things where they've implemented something similar, and you get a ton of people using it. So I think it's a great idea. So
I agree. Beacon also has one, and Beacon's is doing excellent down there. And as he said, novices are one thing, but they're real close to the river. So if you really want to go out there, it's a short trip on out to the river to actually get out there if you're experienced.
I appreciate Scott's work in putting this grant application together. So we'll keep our fingers crossed, and hopefully, like I said, the county will view it favorably and give us the money we're looking for.
Thanks.
Anything else from anyone? Is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak to this public hearing? Is that everything you guys have? Thank you very much. Seeing no one, I make a motion to close public hearing number 4.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Ann?
Okay. A resolution authorizing the submission of the fiscal year 2015 Dutchess County Community Development Block Grant Program application, which says the grant is a joint grant with the Village of Wappingers. Project, Lower Wappingers Creek Mid-Hudson River Paddle Sports Center, whereas the town of Poughkeepsie is participating in the Dutchess County Community Development Consortium for the fiscal year 2015, and whereas input from citizens and groups has been received and considered, and whereas an application has been prepared which addresses our community's concern, and whereas the legal notice of the public hearing has been posted on October 3rd, 2014, and published in the Poughkeepsie Journal on October 7th, 2014. Now, therefore, be resolved that the supervisor or his designee is authorized to submit the Annex Dutchess County Community Development Consortium fiscal year 2015 grant application, and be further resolved that the submission of said application to the Dutchess County Department of Planning and Development be and hereby is authorized, and be it further resolved that the submission of this grant application is a preliminary process, not committing the town to take action, and is therefore a type 2 action, 617.521, requiring no seeker review, which seeker review will be conducted by participating municipalities prior to the determination to proceed. So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Thank you, man. All right, that brings us to the end of our public hearings. I'm going to run through the agenda items quickly for those who may not have an agenda in front of them, and then we'll take questions on agenda items. 5 is a waiver of liquor license for YOLO, You Only Live Once. This was on the agenda last week, and I think the owners are here to answer any questions you might have. We did 6. 7 is to authorize the supervisor to sign working agreements for the chief and the 2 captains. 8 is a set date for public hearing on the 2015 budget. 9 is the appointment of substitute court attendant. 10 is set public hearing date for the repeal no through traffic on Lawson and Conklin Streets in New Hamburg. 11 is to authorize supervisor to sign contract with Troy Banks. This is for the streetlight audit that we talked about some weeks ago. It's ready to roll. 12 is a bid award for our Arlington wastewater treatment plant. 2 pieces of it, heating and AC equipment and clarifier basins equipment. 13 is a bid award for the sanitary pipe TV inspections and cleaning that we discussed a couple weeks back. 14 is to retain Morris Associates for the completion of Country Club Estate Sewer District elimination and connection. 15 is to authorize supervisor to sign licensing agreement for Marist College. 16 is to waive a permit fee, a request to waive a permit fee of the Arlington Fire District. 17 is to appoint Lori Tortorella to the Water Department to replace a retiring clerk. 18 is a request for a waiver for a flea market at the Poughkeepsie Elks Lodge. 19 is a request of a waiver of permit fees for the New Hamburg Fire District. And 20 is a application for a waiver of application fees for the Route 9 Office Park. 21 is set public hearing date to amend Town Code Fire Prevention. 22 is to set a public hearing to amend our zoning code, which we discussed last week. 23 is to accept town board minutes, and the whole minutes. We have a special consent item, and that's notification, which needs to be referred to legal. So I'd like to make a motion to accept questions on an agenda item. Second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone here to speak to an agenda item? Doreen?
Yeah, I have a question on agenda item number 20 to waive the fees for Route 9D Professional Park. It didn't say in the resolution online how much the fees were.
I think they're 18,000. We'll get to that, but let me look at my phone. I had it text that told me. But we'll get to all that information. Let me see here. Neil, do you remember off the top of your head?
10,888.
Goes off 10,880.
Okay, thank you. And also, in the material, the supplemental material that was online, this was called a reapproval of an amended plan. But the plan actually expired on October 15th, which is today. And it had received its 2 90-day time extensions. So I'm not sure how it could be a reapproval. If it's going to be considered tomorrow at the planning board meeting, and it expired today, I don't know how that's considered a reapproval.
What would you consider it?
A new submission. Because it has, it was granted 2 of the maximum 90-day time
Right,
extensions.
I understand.
Yeah.
I know what you're saying. I know what the
Right.
intent is with reapproval. I was just curious what you
Okay,
call
well,
it.
and also because I did see in the town code that there were different prices for fees for initial submissions versus revised submissions.
Okay.
So I don't know if that possibly affects it, but at any rate, to me, this is an expired, it expires as of today, and I'm not really sure why the fees are being waived anyway, so.
Okay. Anybody else? See no one, I make a motion to resume the rules.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, number 5. Be it resolved that Town Board of Town of Poughkeepsie does hereby acknowledge receipt of a request from Glenn F. Cabista plus Associates on behalf of YOLO, You Only Live Once LLC, 260 North Road, Poughkeepsie, New York, for a waiver of the 30-day review period for a liquor license application. And be it further resolved that the Town Board of Town of Poughkeepsie does hereby approve the town clerk's forwarding of a waiver and consent pursuant to the attached request. So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. I believe that proprietors and are here tonight. I know there were some questions last week, so.
I actually had an opportunity to speak to Joseph, who's on my left here. You guys can sit down, bring up some chairs if you like. But I explained to them that we've had some issues in the past with restaurants in that location with alcohol and turning it into a dance club, nightclub at night, moving the tables around, going outside of the scope of the building permit. So they've assured me that's not going to happen, and they're going to keep it a very nice restaurant. They are going to have light music and whatnot, but I'll let them explain. But the hours of operation are actually going to be a lot in line with a true restaurant. So.
Hello, everybody. My name is Dave Gonzalez. As you mentioned, you spoke to Joseph Barlow. Joseph is our chef, and Enrico Romano. Enrico Romano is a manager, partner of the restaurant, as well as Joe. They're both partners. I'm the majority shareholder of the corporation. I want to, first of all, thank you for coming here. Thank you for allowing us to come here and describe what our restaurant's going to be about. Thank you. A little bit about myself so that you know that this is not going to change into a nightclub in the evening. I've been in the Hudson Valley for over 15 years. I own a company called All Access Dental. It's dental practices throughout Dutchess County. There's 4 to 5 of them here. I also have a company called InnoDDS, which is a dental laboratory. Enrico is one of my right hands related to those companies. Down on 9, I'm actually building that 20,000 square foot building right across the street from, or right next to Durant's. That's our building. So I'm creating quite a bit of jobs in that area. I have about 30 employees in the laboratory now. I'm going to be bringing that up to about 70. As far as the all-access dental side, we probably employ about 60 to 80 employees in the Dutchess County area. In all, just to be a little bit blunt, I understand and this is my first restaurant. I've never done this before. That's why I brought Joe as a chef, and I want him to describe how he's been in the community all these years in the different type of high-end restaurants that he was a chef at. And I've always had a vision to do something like this. Enrico's also been in the community, both of them from the day they were born. I don't have any qualms about making this a nightclub. There's too much liability involved in something like that, especially with my main businesses being here. So I can't risk anything related to those businesses. That's how I make my living. That's how I take care of my family, etc. this restaurant has to be something that is very respectful, a beautiful restaurant that's going to enhance the Poughkeepsie area. In that particular area, I realize that we are between Marist College, which is also a concern of mine, as well as St. Francis. However, we are catering towards the higher end crowd. You know, instead of having pizza, we're going to have flatbreads. You know, our alcohol that will be sold will be much higher in dollars. It's not going to be, okay, let's go get a $4 Coors Light. That's not what we're about. So it's going to be an atmosphere that's going to range from 6 o'clock in the morning to the dinner time, 11 o'clock at night, whatever it is, because we want to do things that are different in that particular area. I mean, right now, in my opinion, one of my practices is actually in St. Francis Hospital. In close proximity where a lot of people go is the diner, very close, and that diner actually gets very crowded. But there's nothing of the atmosphere that I'm planning to bring to this, so that the doctors, the nurses, everybody else can come across, as well as, you know, drawing from the college professors. You know, I understand we're going to have a lot of the college kids as well, but that's going to be, in my opinion, it's going to be limited, related to the dollars and cents that it's going to cost to have certain items. But it's going to be a very respectful place. It's going to have, you know, you walk in the morning, it's going to have your macchiatos, it'll have your smoothies, it'll have your proteins in the mornings, and also sit down and take out as well. And then lunch and dinner, which is going to be a very nice menu. You're all welcome, by all means.
I'm sure we'll be there at some point.
Excellent, excellent. So I am investing quite a bit of money in making this place a very nice place, more of a higher-end place. I think it'll be great for the area. I'm going to pass it off to Joe so he can describe a little bit about himself.
You have a good chef. I know that. I've eaten some of his food. So.
There you go. Okay.
Well, I've been in the area since I was 4 years old. I went to high school here. I went to college in Pennsylvania, but I've been cooking in the area. I worked at the Ship Lantern Inn, the Brick House in Marlboro. Crew Restaurant was my last venture. As to reiterate David's, I have no interest in being a part of a nightclub. You know, when I was talking to Michael, it kind of shocked me that there was an issue with the place.
I think it was just a name that kind of caught some of our attention.
Yeah.
You go a lot of directions.
No, I understand. But it's number one, I definitely don't want any problems with the town. And once you start doing things like that, you just end up compounding all of your problems, and it's just not necessary. You know, we're going to respect the hours that we're open till. There's going to be no late, if we have music, it'll be a catered thing. There'll be music as far as our stereo. We were planning on putting in a jazz piano, so it would be light fare, for Sunday brunches, Saturday brunches, things like that. But that's it. Okay. No nightclubs, no bouncers, and certainly no 2-for-1 shots.
You don't want to have to come out of the kitchen to bounce anybody out of there, right?
Yeah.
Even though we had
could do it,
before.
but
I've had to do that before.
I'm okay with 2-for-1 shots.
What you've described certainly sounds like, something that the town needs in that area. So if your description is, accurate and fitting of the establishment, I think, you'll do well, and certainly we hope you do. Any board members have any questions?
If you have another lab that you want to build at some point,
Yeah.
look at the town of Poughkeepsie. Honestly, I would encourage you.
Absolutely. Thank you. Can Enrico talk a little bit?
Sure,
Just a little
talk to the
introduction. You don't have to
mic,
go crazy.
No, I mean,
It's important
just
you know about
one
us.
comment on the only live once. I know how that could be a slang to a younger demographics. The reality is, when we were thinking about it, is more of the aspect of whether I'm going to go for the T-bone or the filet mignon. I only live once. Let's go with the filet mignon. Yeah. Same thing with myself. I was born in the Hudson Valley, Arlington High School, Dutchess Community College. I've been with David for about 6 years. Family does a lot with the Hudson Stocker Association. So we're all about the reputation and making sure that we run a clean and respectful business.
Good. Well, we welcome you, and like I said, I hope you have a lot of success.
I appreciate you guys coming in and straightening everything out for us.
Absolutely.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for hearing us out.
Thank you. All right, we have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Jay, number 7.
Be it resolved, the Town Board of Poughkeepsie is hereby authorized the supervisor to execute an agreement between the Town of Poughkeepsie and Town of Poughkeepsie Chief of Police Thomas Morrow and substantially the form annexed hereto, and also with Patrol Captain Ronald Spiro and Detective Captain Paul LeCompte, and substantially the form annexed hereto, except as to base salary and joint evaluation of the captains by the Chief and Supervisor, all for the period January 1st, 2013 through December 31st, 2015.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Yeah, I don't think at this point, when we're going through the budget process, we should be passing any contracts or any negotiations or anything new. It's a month-long process. I don't think we should be passing anything like this at this time.
How does everyone else feel?
This is fairly consistent with what we've done in the past, and we approved
And
the
times have changed.
And we just approved the CSEA contract a couple, what was it?
Prior to the supervisor's budget. That's just my opinion. You guys can,
I can respect that. The money that's.
Just to say, I think the three guys do a phenomenal job. It has nothing to do with the reflection of them. It's just being on the budget committee, and times are tough. People are losing their houses. Things haven't changed. I still think these issues should be addressed during the budget process when we meet with the department heads one-on-one to make sure that every little penny in here is accountable. But that's, my opinion.
Supervisor. Todd, you put together the budget. I'm guessing that these numbers are something you had in mind when you put together your budget?
Yeah, this is accounted for in the budget. As with the other contracts, we signed the PBA and CSA. So this money is accounted for in the 2015 budget. So
it's in the budget.
Yep.
These are continuing employees. I see absolutely no problem with that, Jenny. I don't.
That's your opinion. I think that, going through the budget process, cutting corners the way we are and the way things are, I think we should sit down and look at it, but that's just my vote, my opinion. Because I said, it's still the three of them do a phenomenal job. It's nothing against them, but I just think we shouldn't be passing any contracts during this month.
It's always easier to go through a budget when you have the contract settled, so
Everybody comfortable enough to vote on this tonight? All right, so we have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Nay.
Opposed? Motion passes 5-1. All right, bill number 8.
Be it resolved pursuant to and in accordance with the provisions of Section 106 of the Town Law and other applicable provisions of law, the tentative statement of estimated expenditures and revenues heretofore submitted by the supervisor is adopted as the preliminary budget of the Town of Poughkeepsie for the fiscal year beginning January 1st, 2015, and such preliminary budget is on file in the Town Clerk's Office of the Town of Poughkeepsie for public inspection. And be it further resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Poughkeepsie does hereby set the 5th day of November 2014 at 7 p.m. at the Town Hall, Town of Poughkeepsie, 1 over Rocker Road, Poughkeepsie, New York, as the date, time, and place of a public hearing on the preliminary budget for the fiscal year beginning January 1st, 2015, at which time all interested parties will have the opportunity to be heard, which preliminary budget was approved by this board and filed with the town clerk, and be it further resolved that the town clerk is hereby authorized, empowered, and directed to advertise said public hearing in the Poughkeepsie Journal no less than 5 days prior to the public hearing, and to post same on the town clerk's bulletin board. And be it further resolved, this resolution will take effect immediately. So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. I know our controller's here, and he's, I want to thank him again for the hard work he did on the budget, and it's now in the hands of the Finance Committee, so whenever you guys are ready, the controller's ready, willing, and able. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0.
The Town Board, Town of Poughkeepsie is hereby appoint Harry Rosario to the position of substitute court attendant, not to exceed 15 hours per week at the salary of $15 per hour effective immediately. So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0.
Be resolved, the Town Board of the Town of Poughkeepsie does hereby set the 5th day of November 2014 at 7 o'clock p.m. at the Town Hall, Town of Poughkeepsie, 1 over Rock Road, Poughkeepsie, New York, as and for the time, date, and place of a public hearing to consider an amendment to the Town Code, Chapter 195, entitled Vehicles and Traffic, specifically Section 195-63, Schedule
Quiz.
27.
Entitled No Through Traffic, which would read as follows: repeal Section 195-63, Schedule 27, no through traffic, specifically name of street, Conklin Street, New Hamburg, location westerly direction at Main Street, time limit upon the completion of the bridge repair, name of street, Lawson Street, New Hamburg, location southerly direction at Reed Road, time limit until the completion of the Bridge Street Bridge repair, and be it further resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Poughkeepsie does determine that this action is a type 2 action requiring no environmental review, and be it further resolved that if adopted, said local law shall become effective immediately upon filing with the Secretary of State. So moved.
Second. Why do we have to do this? It says right on it, until the completion of the project. The project's over. Why do we have to go back to a public hearing?
Beats me. You have to ask our attorney that question.
I'm sorry to ask him that, but he's.
My guess is it seems like we actually
It had a date on it.
permanently, so we have to take it off the books. It probably would be ineffective as when the bridge is completed.
Yeah, it was
But I think this officially.
Is it complete?
Yeah, it's completed, right?
Right.
The way it is written now is that it is until that happens, and I think this memorializes that it has happened, and then it takes it out of the code, other than, you put stuff in the code, you have,
Yeah.
you take it out, and this is how it comes
Makes it
out.
more
We have to
official.
go through a whole public hearing. That's the part that gets me. I just thought we could just pass a
Does our,
resolution.
does our police department or can the town board do a no-through traffic or like no parking temporary for a period of time that expires without actually changing local law? Like when they post no parking for, the weekend or these 2 days or whatever,
Yeah,
the
because-
Arlington Street Fair, don't they have authority to do that, or can I park anywhere?
I just read that section
Can I
of
just
town
park-
law, and they do have the authority, but it's a very limited.
Short-term, pardon me. I don't think, I haven't looked at it since we were waiting for the last huge snowstorm, and my recollection is that they have authority, but it relates to special circumstances.
In short time.
We do a public hearing. Put this-
Other than that, it has to come to the board.
You have,
We did one.
And we
number
can't do it temporary,
No,
it would have to be a new local law.
I don't think we did.
I think we're taking this out. I think,
Yeah, but it sounds like it should automatically come out, because upon completion of the Bridge Street Bridge,
Well, it becomes unenforceable, presumably.
That's why I
Problem
thought
is, they could be doing repairs in the future and somebody could get ticketed, I guess.
yeah,
So,
this is a specific repair.
but I think we effectively changed local law, and now we gotta change it back.
right,
That's what I
doctrine
think
of
happened.
It
equivalence.
was just a,
You
just
put
a
things
question, yeah.
in, you take things out the same way you put them in.
Government doing things.
and it has to come out.
Government
All
spending.
right, so we have a motion and a second. Anything else? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Where are we?
Be it resolved, the town board of the town of Poughkeepsie, after considering the town's procurement policy and the experience of other municipalities, authorizes the supervisor to execute a contract with Troy and Banks, Inc. to conduct an audit of the town's street lighting systems, such contract to be substantiated the form annexed hereto. And the town board further finds that it would not be in the best interest of the town to solicit alternative proposals or quotations for such audit, and be further resolved, the town board does hereby determine that this is a type 2 action requiring no environmental review. So moved.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion?
Right, this is just, no cost to us, we get the savings,
Oh.
and wherever we save, they get a percent, that's how they make their money?
Yeah, there's no cost to us initially. Jim, number 2 on the attachment, I think is still wrong. The town is to get, any savings, the town's to get 75%,
Right.
and Tri Banks will get 25%. And now, either I'm just tired or I'm not reading it. Doesn't that say the town board's gonna,
I think TB is Troy and Banks.
Yeah, Troy and Banks, yeah.
oh, I see.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry.
No, that's right.
Too similar there. All right.
Right, though, in my earlier memo to you, I did have it.
And is the measurement, whatever they're measuring by, defined within the contract? As far as, is the savings, is it a specific date? Like, is it based on the, like if the it's for the streetlight, so if the kilowatt cost goes down, they didn't really, if we use the same amount of energy but the kilowatt cost goes down, they haven't actually saved.
I don't think it's the
No,
cost. I
they're
think.
gonna go out and count the streetlights to make
No.
sure that the bill we get from Central Hudson
But
for lights we
savings-
actually
the
have.
savings is- No, what I'm saying is, if I could use the exact same electricity this year as I did last year, and my cost could go up or down depending on the cost of the
Right.
electricity. So is there savings based on the kilowatt usage or the the overall cost. Follow me?
I don't think it's based on kilowatt.
I do.
Is it defined clearly in the agreement so that, because if the cost of electricity goes down this year.
I don't think it's based on
then-
cost.
Then
We-
it may look like we saved money, but
We get charged, as Bill said, we get charged per light.
Per light.
Light pole, some other poles
Right.
are, that's what they're actually
No, no,
gonna count
and
to
that's
see
why
if it.
it should be, as long as the measurement is well defined, it should be easy, because
Right.
we have all the same lights this year that we'll
Yeah.
have next year presumably, so the savings should be pretty clear, but how is it calculated? Because if it's based on the overall cost, if the energy, if.
I don't think it's based on kilowatt hour.
Gas goes, if gas goes from $4 a gallon down to $2 a gallon, my cost is cut in half, but
Yeah.
nobody saved me that money, the cost.
No, I understand what you're saying. We'll make sure it is, but
I will make sure that's in there. I discussed several permutations about what happens based on historically and then going forward. But generally, it's that the savings going forward have to be the product of something they've done. And I did not ask him that basic question, like if rates go down, do you get a cut of that? And I'll make sure that they don't.
Well, along with line,
locked in with.
I understand this to be more of an
Use it,
audit
so it's-
of the Central Hudson bill
It is.
as to what we actually have.
it is, but
They have found in
So
other
we're gonna-
municipalities where the municipalities build for lights.
And we only have 40 lights on.
Right.
Right, but.
It's
but
for
the-
overcharges.
We get a fee, we get
We
a,
get charged per light, not the amount of.
Jim,
But along the line, what you're saying, Stefan, though, is we also had in discussion LED lights. So you want to make sure it's clear that if we start putting LED in and it starts getting a cost savings, they're not piggybacking on that either.
I think we're
But
getting
it's
billed
just a
for
discussion now, but
over 4,000 streetlights in town. What they're gonna do is make sure we have the number that Senator Hudson's billing us for, and
All right, if somewhere you can email me the formula or the agreement so I can take a look at it. I just want to make sure that what they're using to measure makes complete sense. And
Did we
if some-
table this?
no.
No, I'm fine
No,
with-
no,
I
no,
wanna-
this
I
has
wanna-
been
I'm fine with
languishing.
going forward
We
with it.
gotta get business done.
Okay.
This is
Yeah, no, I'm
big cost savings.
fine with going forward with it. I just want to make sure.
For the public.
To measure whether they succeeded or not.
But we're safe.
Sense.
The only time we pay is if we
Because
see a
we
savings.
had our electric contract where it was based on a fluctuating rate, and the problem with that is that there was no cap.
I sat in on this
Problem
meeting.
is, we had 25% variable.
No, I know, that's what I'm saying, the variable had no cap, so.
We'll make sure it's spelled out. Jim will get you whatever information.
Yeah, I'll send you, I have notes of basically 2 negotiation sessions I had with him that are to be in the contract, and I will send you them.
And we'll get
I'll
the
add-
controller involved, because he's paying the bills, he has the bills from Central Hudson, so, with me, all right? All right, so we have a motion and a second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Is it my turn? Mm-hmm. 12A. Be resolved that Town Board of Town of Poughkeepsie does hereby award the bid for the Arlington wastewater treatment plant replacement, heating, and AC equipment to the low bidder, Sundance Energy Contractors, Inc., DBA Markley Mechanical, $286,970 plus conduit bid alternate of $29,210 equals $316,183 versus $296,750 plus conduit bid alternate of $26,890 equals $323,640. So the total price does not exceed $316,183. Be further resolved that the supervisor authorized to execute a contract with Sundance Energy Contractors, Inc., DBA Markley Mechanical, for $316,183 upon receipt of the required insurance certificate, security bond, and other documents specified in the bid package. So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0.
be resolved, the Town Board of Town of Poughkeepsie is hereby award the bid for the Arlington wastewater treatment plant secondary clarifier basins equipment replacement to the low bidder, SpectraServe, at the price of $482,700 pursuant to a recommendation of town engineer. Be it further resolved, the supervisor is authorized to execute a contract agreement with SpectraServe. So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0.
Resolution 13, be it resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Poughkeepsie does hereby award the bid for the sanitary pipe TV inspections and cleaning to the low bidder, American Underground Services, at the bid price of $30,108.30 pursuant to the recommendation of the town engineer, and be it further resolved that the supervisor is authorized to execute a contract agreement with American Underground Services. So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second, any discussion?
Yeah, I don't have
How much are they
anything.
doing?
Pardon?
How much are they doing, do you know?
Don, could you come up? Do you remember how much they're, I was thinking about that as Bill was reading it, the length of pipe that they're going to inspect?
As I recall, it was somewhere
Yeah, get this on mic.
around $1 a foot. So I think it
Sounds
was
reasonable.
somewhere between 5 and 6 miles.
And basically what we're going to be looking for is, cracks in the line, trying to determine if there's I and I. So it's something we really need to do, in a much larger area than just what we're starting with here, but this is at least a jumping off point.
And Don, are you hitting the hard-hit areas first where you know the infiltration's coming in?
Yeah,
you
we
outline
have,
that?
we're in the middle of a 7-year plan, and we have areas, we have 3 areas in town. One of them's Country Club, and we just got a letter from the DEC which said that we are, it's not quite a consent order, but they're gonna put this requirement for us to TV about 4,000 feet of pipe into the speedies permit. And the other 2 areas are areas where you're historically having troubles, with a couple of pump stations overflowing, so.
All right. Makes sense.
Just so you know, this isn't gonna be it.
Oh, no, absolutely.
This is just a start, but it's at least a start.
But I want to make sure you're starting in the right end of the town, because the newer stuff and the older, the infiltration's unbelievable.
Anything else? So a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0.
Be resolved, Town Board, Town of Poughkeepsie does hereby retain Morris Associates for engineering services for the completion of the Country Club State Sewer District Sewage Treatment Facility Elimination Force Main Connection as is stated hourly rate, with the total cost not to exceed $59,000 for design services and $10,000 for completion and oversight with the subsurface investigative work. And be it further resolved that the Town Board finds it would not be in the best interest of the town to solicit alternative proposals. And be it further resolved that the aforesaid services are a type 2 action requiring no secret review. So moved.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? These,
Is this charged just to that sewer district?
Yeah. This is, it was in all the numbers that we've had broken down and when we've seen the various,
All right, so it's paid by Country Club State
Yes.
Sewer District, regardless of where, okay.
and this also, we have a required schedule that we've, have with the DEC. So we're on a schedule. We're trying to, meet the schedule. I think we're meeting at this point. So it's just continuation of that work.
Nobody seconded that, really.
Anybody second that?
Second.
Second.
Now you get 2.
Read it.
So now you have to choose.
Well, I read it, so pick Bill.
Mike.
Mike can't move it and second,
I
so
move.
was Bill second.
Can't go-
Anything else? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0.
Be it resolved, the Town Board of the Town of Poughkeepsie does hereby authorize the supervisor to execute the supplemental temporary sidewalk street construction license agreement between Town of Poughkeepsie and Marist Real Property Services, Inc. to supplement a 2005 license agreement for Beck Place in substantially the form annexed here to, and be it resolved that such acceptance and authorization by the Town Board of the Town of Poughkeepsie is subject to the approval of the final agreement by the attorney for the town and director of municipal development for the Town of Poughkeepsie. So moved.
Second.
Before you vote on this, it's not a supplemental agreement, it's just a temporary sidewalk agreement as attached to it. The resolution doesn't match the caption on the contract.
All right. So we have a motion and a second. Any discussion, questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Yeah. Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. I thought you said, hey, Todd. All right. Ann?
It's a 15. This license agreement made on the,
Whoopsie.
am I on the right one? Yes.
16, I think you don't have to read number.
16, right?
15, oh, never mind. 16, be resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Poughkeepsie does hereby waive the fees affiliated with the application submitted by the Arlington Fire District pertaining to placement of banners on all 4 of its stations. A copy of said request is attached. So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Yeah, this is a request for the waiver for the fire department to put up banners trying to attract new volunteers. Let me just take a moment of time to say, if you're young and you're concerned about your community, they could certainly use the help. It's really needed. It's very important. I myself haven't got the courage to run into a burning building, but there are people that can, and they do need the help. And so please contact Arlington Fire Department and sign up and be a volunteer. Start giving early in life.
Well said. Anything else? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Be it resolved that the Town Board, Town of Poughkeepsie does hereby appoint Lori A. Tortorella to the full-time position of clerk for the Town of Poughkeepsie Water Department at the CACA Grade 4, Step 1, salary of $16.60 per hour, effective November 3rd, 2014, which appointment is subject to a probationary period of not less than 8, no more than 26 weeks per civil service law. So moved. Motion and a second. Any discussion? It's great to have Lori coming back to the town. She left a couple years ago to seek full-time employment, so it's nice to have her back. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0.
Resolved, the Town Board of Town of Poughkeepsie is hereby approved the request filed by the Poughkeepsie Elks Lodge to hold a flea market on November 9, 2014 at the Poughkeepsie Elks Lodge, 29 Overrock Road, Poughkeepsie, New York. And does hereby waive all fees affiliated with said flea market, as all proceeds will be used for charitable donations. So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0.
Be it resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Poughkeepsie does hereby waive any building permit and other fees related to the New Hamburg Fire District's upgrading of its electrical and generator systems, as well as constructing an addition to the east side of the station located at number 15 Channingville Road, Wappingers Falls. So moved.
Second.
For motion and second, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0.
Be it resolved, Town Board, Town of Poughkeepsie does hereby waive the site plan application fees in reference to the application for reapproval of a site plan submitted by Soccer Spring LLC for the project known as Route 9D Professional Office Park, for the reasons set forth in a letter dated September 29, 2014, from Richard Cantor, attorney for Soccer Springs LLC, a copy of which is attached here too. So moved.
Second.
For motion and a second, Mr. Cantor's here tonight to explain to us why they're seeking a waiver of this fee.
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to be heard. Route 90 Office Park is a development for office use on Route 9D, just off the intersection of Route 9. It received conditional site plan approval from the Planning Board, and the project ran into two significant delays, neither one of which is attributable to either the fault or the lack of proceeding by the applicant. Let me stop for a moment. I think whether you call it an approval or a reapproval is a semantic issue. The first of the two problems is that during the environment...
You can't do it. A reapproval isn't...
I think the wording just is to say that it was
Reapproval
approved once and now it needs to be approved again.
Right, but there's no reapproval process. It's.
Well, what would you, yeah.
No, I'm just saying that.
I know what,
I don't think it's a moment as to how you characterize it.
In regards to, it's not anything of the applicant's doing, there's a boundary dispute or something, correct?
There's a what?
There were two time delaying factors. During the secret process, during the archaeological review, Native American skeleton was found on the property. The applicant has cooperated in a time-consuming process with the town. I don't mean the town delayed it, just a time-consuming process with the town, with the State Office of Parks and Recreation, with DEC, and with 3 Indian tribes. The agreement was finally signed. Part of the protocol for doing this out of respect for the Native American culture was to have tribal representatives present. Tribal representatives come from as far away as Oklahoma. They were unable to come before the time ran out. The schedule for doing the actual reburial is now in mid-November. That was one factor.
How long ago were those Native American remains that was a while ago, wasn't it?
Oh, like
Couple of
2,
years.
3
How
years
long ago
ago.
were
How long ago were they
discovered?
discovered?
Couple of years, probably.
Year and a half,
ago.
2 years ago?
Wasn't it longer than that?
Maybe as
I
many
don't
as
have
3
the
or 4.
exact-
But as Mr. Kenny said, it was a very long, drawn-out process. Even when after they found it, they went further on to see if there's any more there. It was probably
the
good
thing that was
3 or 4 months.
The thing that was sort of strange to me was that we had a police car parked there for a few days, and then it was like
Initially, they thought it
They
was.
weren't sure what they found.
They weren't sure
Yeah.
it was human remains or what it was, and then
so it was a crime scene initially.
Yeah.
Part of
they
that.
weren't sure. They
Okay.
found basically a skeleton.
Okay.
The second,
I can never
figure
it's just
out why.
odd and strange situation.
the second problem the project ran into, which also created a delay, is that the neighboring property owner was determined to be parking on this property and driving through this property, which interfered with the functioning of the approved site plan. One of the conditions of the approval was to resolve the encroachments so that the site plans approved could be implemented. The neighbor then started an action in the local Supreme Court, Dutchess County, claiming they had adverse rights. As many of you know, including in particular Mr. Krakauer, the process of civil litigation is not quick. The approval process that is going on before the town board will modify the previously approved plan so that the modified plan will be able to function, notwithstanding the parking and driving by the neighbor's property.
So you feel that the neighbor filed a lawsuit to kind of bog you down in the mud, your client, to slow him down?
I didn't say that. I assume the neighbor filed a lawsuit because they thought they were correct.
So this lawsuit was basically the type of lawsuit you mean, in other words, for a layman, they'd been using the property for this way a certain amount of time. They sued to say we have a right to
The
continue.
legal term is adverse possession. They
Okay.
started the lawsuit saying we have a continuing right to do that because we've done it for more than 10 years in a manner that the law recognizes gives us a right.
Okay.
And we've been working our way through that lawsuit. We now have a resolution to be presented and hopefully approved by the planning board that will obviate that problem. Those two reasons, neither which are...
And what is that resolution that will obviate that problem?
We're proposing to shift the access point for this project by a small number of feet that will avoid the conflict between the access for this project and the encroaching parking and the encroaching driveway.
So why is it that it took 2 years to come to that simple resolution?
Because until we had some understanding with the neighbor that they would accept this solution, we couldn't implement it because we'd still be at loggerheads with the neighbor. And so for both of those reasons, neither of which was caused by delay or lack of attention by the applicant, for a project which I presume the town welcomes, a fully tax-paying office project, we're hoping that you will authorize the waiver of the fees. The fees were fully paid first time around. The town's consulting fees for this application will be paid under the escrow fees.
Jim, do we have the authority to waive the application fee for a site plan?
Yes,
And-
the authority to waive fees.
Is it subject to any?
The town board, and quite honestly, the only question that I've seen come up is one that relates to, equal treatment of people in similar situations.
So there's some sort of criteria there?
I don't.
And the other question I have is, have we, I don't remember ever waiving the application fee for a site plan. And I know we've turned down homeowners when they were trying to get an extension on their building.
I think we've waived them and turned them down
Yeah, we've done
based
both.
on the reasoning. I don't know whether we've done
Past
this or
two
not.
One, I
Mr.
think
Cantor, in this particular
partially.
case, you're doing a new submission of the old plan.
Correct.
Because of circumstances beyond the control of the applicant.
That's correct, Mr.
And you're
Barrows.
asking to simply allow the fees that have been paid once to continue covering this new
Correct.
submission.
That's exactly correct. Stated better than I stated it. Thank you.
We always potentially open up a slippery slope when we waive things because everybody will come in here and say it's beyond my control, and everybody will come up with rhymes.
I think that's probably.
And I think the
Well,
project.
if they come in here and tell me
I think the project-
town remains from
No,
an
no, I know,
Indian,
no, I know, but we.
I think they might be out of their control, but.
But is that, did that in and of itself prevent the project from pulling a building permit? You got to pull,
yes.
Once you get the site plan approval, you got to pull a building permit, right, in order to get it rolling?
It precluded the satisfaction of the conditions of approval, which precluded the signing of the site plan, and you need a site plan to get a building permit.
Okay.
So, and just to be clear, if the planning board approves the application, as far as you're concerned, these property owners are going to move forward, assuming that the Native American Indians remains are removed, this lawsuit settled amicably, they're going to move forward.
They're going to move forward, they're going to have all the conditions satisfied, they're going to present the site plan for signature, and then, as with any business matter, they're going to proceed as business permits.
All right. Neil, I have a question for you, if you can come up. In terms of this project, you know, I don't know if the town has had, it doesn't sound like we did much work in you know, getting to this point because of the conditions Mr. Cantor's outlined. Were there costs to the town that,
Between the time
of the original approval.
Well, that's what I'm asking.
No, but they're all the way through the site plan approval, so right?
Well, the plan, I'm talking about the building department, I'm talking about, I mean, the planning board, you know, they get paid $35, I think, or $40 a head for their meetings. I'm wondering if the planning board's done anything, I'm wondering if building, or not the planning board, but building inspectors and, you know.
Yeah, since the time of the original site plan approval 18 months ago, we've been waiting for the applicant to come back with the conditions of approval having been satisfied. They have not, and we are now, as Doreen had pointed out earlier today, I think is the expiration of that original approval. So it's a year plus 290 days.
Yeah.
So the question and the waiver of fees, this, you know, this is the only board of the town that can waive fees. You've done it for some site plan approvals, usually for like the fire departments if they have some expansion, something like that. I don't recall that an application like this has come back to you because usually they either go away completely and don't go forward with the project and everything just expires, or they satisfy the conditions of the approval and the chairman signs the drawing and then they pull the permits.
Have we ever waived a fee? I don't remember ever waiving a fee for one of these.
I don't know.
Just did it twice tonight.
No, those.
This is a site.
Yeah, during my tenure, this is a matter of first impression for me as well. So you know, again,
the New Hamburg Fire District is not a for-profit developer property.
Right, we've done it for Rochdale Fire, we've done it for New Hamburg, that sort of thing, on the site plan and the building permits.
I think, look, common sense is here. It's not their fault that their human remains were found on the piece of property. It's not their fault that the next-door neighbor sued them. And I kind of think that we should, in this case.
But we have neighbors suing neighbors and a lot of projects coming forward. I think I would go with strictly the fact that they found remains.
Right, the Native American remains, the Native American remains is the only thing that sets us apart, because as far as a neighbor suing a neighbor, I mean, we have a project right up the road where there's a Stop and Shop gas station and a McDonald's where the neighbor sued the neighbor. So the lawsuit thing happens a lot, correct, Mr. Cantor? I mean, there's some frequency where a neighbor will sue a neighbor to jam up a project or...
The examples you're speaking of are where people are challenging the approvals.
Okay, but so you have...
That's a very different situation.
Well, you have litigation that ensues when a project comes out.
Yeah. The question...
That part of it, to me, wouldn't make any difference, because those are things that every applicant coming through could...
Yeah, you're probably
Native
right.
American remains...
Americans are unique, very unique situation.
Right. The question that I have is, of the resolution wording where it says in reference to the application and uses the word reapproval, could we have it say new submission?
That's fine.
That's
I don't
fine.
care.
That's fine.
Because it is a new submission.
No, I kind of like it clearer
Yeah,
than.
the effect is the same. You know,
Okay.
they're giving us an application.
For the planning
we're
board.
reviewing it. We've already reviewed it. So, you know, it's not as if none of the consultants or staff are unfamiliar with it.
When this came up with the building permit with Mr. Balbo, I think the resolution that this board came up with was, he went through a whole process to get his building permit, and a lot of the inspections had already been done.
Yes.
And there was a piece that still needed to be done. And for the life of me, I don't recall exactly what you came back to us with, but I thought you were going to go back and with that one, take a look and say, these things still need to be done. The percentage of that would be this, so the building fee for that would be just a fraction of what it normally would be.
The board granted them basically a 50% reduction.
Okay.
Is what you did.
So in this, I mean, because of the situation, and I'm an advocate of office space in this area, so I don't want to tag them for anything. If there are things that have to be done internally, because all the paperwork's got to float back onto somebody's desk, you know, those are things that you should probably look at.
Well, that's what I was asking.
When Todd had said, you know, not a lot of work has been done, there's been a ton of work done to get the site plan approval. So, you know, the application fee is based on what we do for the applicant coming through. Just a minute, Mr. Cantor, I don't know if you're waving or you want to speak, but hi. The application fee is based on the amount of work that we do. Most of that has been done already, but there'll be some when they have to go back to the planning board. If you say it's completely nominal, then it's completely nominal.
Well, but the point is,
Balbo, we looked at
I understand,
that before we waived it.
you've made your point, I understand what you're saying. My point was, they've paid $10,000 to the town, almost $11,000, so whatever work, I realize there's been some work that's done, but 11,000 hopefully covered a lot of that.
But we're just saying the same thing.
We don't want to say a resubmission, a new submission. The fact of the matter is, a lot of the work that would be done if this were something we've never seen before has already been done. It's not going to be done
I think what you
again.
said is exactly pretty much what I said.
You know, the
That
difference.
most of it's
Why
already
don't we let Neil?
most of it's been already done, and the fee is for the work that we do. It's not just a
But
charge.
the
that comes from
difference,
town of
the
Poughkeepsie.
difference too between what the building, the question of the earned fee for a building permit, and the fee for a site plan here is that we also, keep in mind, we also collect an escrow. Mr. Cantor has already acknowledged that those fees need to be kept up and paid because we have outside consultants to pay who do the kind of the bulk
But
of the work
the
to get the
application
engineering
fee is
side.
supposed to be an earned fee as well.
Yeah,
based on
there's the concept, but we don't charge back against that earned fee the way that we do for the building department. It's just not accounted for in that manner. Maybe it's something that we did look at going forward. We just don't do it that way. So I can't tell you what the earned fee is for.
But with a building permit, we don't charge back to the fee either.
We actually do. There's a separate accounting against that. We track that time.
So if
like in other
somebody
words, the inspections and the time spent to review a building plan and the time to go out, yes, that's accounted for.
But we don't increase the fee the fee is just based on like
The square footage and,
Right.
yeah, right. But what I'm saying
You know,
is that we
I
don't.
think a new application fee makes sense. I'm just saying to be consistent with what we did previously.
Yeah, we ought to try to,
Be
right. I agree.
consistent with what Mr. Balbo had to do with his house. That's my thought.
No, that's where I was going.
Charging a whole new fee from the get-go means we're charging them to do something that we've already done. But 2 years have passed, and we have a rule in the book that there's a rhyme and a reason to that, because we don't want these things just sitting and coming back 20 years later where they say we still got the approval.
And that's kind of where I was going, yeah. Is there a fee that would cover our
to get-
costs and?
Yeah, but
time
also
right
to
here.
get to the question of, this idea of earned fee, the underlying question is, has the applicant made a case that, in the opinion of this board, warrants even consideration for either a complete waiver or a reduction? And that's for this board to decide. Under the circumstances, that's for you to decide.
My only suggestion is being consistent with what Mr. Balbo, how we handled Mr. Balbo's situation is, I would put it back to Neil to look at it and see what else needs to be done from here till the end, and you adjust the fee accordingly. Maybe it's waived completely, maybe it's not waived completely.
Yeah, that's kind of where I was
Mr.
going.
Balbo was of the opinion that
Okay,
most of his delays were not a direct result of what he did. His builder died, during the process. And his, it took him longer. He built, I think, a bigger house than he started out to build. But, those are things that he felt that he had a reason for it, but we didn't waive the fee there. There was another one, Mr. McKee came in, and I think the board didn't waive the fee on that one, and he built he turned a...
Yeah, you had, right, there were some you did not grant, correct.
Those are private houses?
But those are private houses, right?
Those are private houses.
And this is clearly an office building?
Yeah, but for also not a building permit, as the other ones were, but for a site plan.
Correct me if I'm
Just so
wrong.
I understand, because I'm the new guy on the block here. Most of the building plan approval process was done. It got to the point where all of a sudden we had the problem with the human remains. There is still some work that has to be done?
Well, yes.
And we're attempting to make sure we cover that
Any
cost.
costs.
If I may, the work that needs to be done will be paid for by this applicant through the escrow fees. The town is not going to absorb any of those costs. And when this reaches the point to submit for a building permit, all of those fees will be paid in accordance with the town schedule. There's a de minimis amount of administrative work that's occasioned to the town by the fact that we're coming in with a revised access. It's regrettable on all sides that we couldn't work out all of these details before today. We tried really hard, and the time just didn't fit together. But the town is not going to absorb any of these expenses.
Hey, Neil, was a stop work order put in place when they found the remains?
No, there was no need. In fact, the remains were found while we were in the middle of the secret review process. There was
no work
nothing
to
to
stop.
stop. They were in the process of doing investigatory work, which they're allowed to do under seeker. And I think literally it was the last hole that they dug and came across the remains.
And where, as far as relocating the remains, I think it's a shame that if they are going to relocate it, it just floats. Where was the delay? Who caused that delay? It wasn't the applicant, but just out of curiosity, where was it? Why did it take 4 years? Why would it take 4 years from discovery of a body?
It isn't 4 years, it's a number of years. If you tried to coordinate Parks and Recreation, DEC, and 3 Indian tribes, I think you would understand why the time.
I just think it's a shame. There's remains there. They should be properly dealt with rather than sitting in the middle of strip malls.
As an aside, the applicant has agreed in this resolution to create a permanent easement on the property for the reburial of the remains on the property at the request of the Indian tribes. There's not going to be any signs or monumentation because they're concerned about vandalism or disrupting of the remains.
So they're just going to rebury them in the same location?
No, they're going to rebury them in a more private location. They're actually going to be moved.
A corner of the property that's accessible to the tribes, but that will not interfere with the ability to build the project.
Where they found the remains is very close to the state highway. The preferred response would be to leave them in place.
I thought somebody was coming in here to take those remains to some
it was the tribe that asked for them to be removed because of the location so close to the highway, and they were concerned about future road widening. They made the request, but it took a long time to get all the parties
There's some
together.
discussion among the tribes of whose remains and which tribe.
This was all a matter of, as long as I've been doing this kind of work, this was a matter of first impression for me. I had never dealt with anything like this. I reached out to the regional director of DEC. He put me in contact with the DEC archaeologist who was immensely helpful because that's what this is what he does. He coordinates with the tribes, but it took a long time to get the parties to the table to identify.
Who is the owner of the property or the developer of the property? Is it one and the same?
Nestler. Yeah,
Nestler family. It's called Soccer Spring LLC, but the principals are the Nestler family.
The locals.
And
that was their home there years ago.
Right.
Home was almost where the burial was.
If it matters, the Nestlers spent well in excess of $50,000 in archaeological fees and investigation to reach this point to permit the reburial.
And lawyers' fees.
Yeah, and
So what's the, so let's try to bring this to a head here and.
Yeah, I mean, I think it is, I think there is a difference in this situation than in others. And
Yeah, and I see-
when I deal with a real estate closing and you talk, people look at title insurance, and the thing you always say, you don't have to worry as long as the Native American tribe didn't own this land and have it, show up at it. So this is one where the Native American is actually still there. I just think we got to make sure that we're consistent. In general, I think waiving fees is problematic because you create a situation where others will come through. The idea of waiving a fee because of litigation makes no sense at all to me.
Okay.
The Native American burial site, the situation with that, it does make
unique.
sense. I think it just is what
So
it is.
what's the-
I would just, if Neil, to be consistent, if there is anything, a reapproval.
Not reapproval.
Or a new approval
It's an
requires.
approval. It's an approval.
There's the process where our people have to basically get all that paperwork again together, whatever it is. I don't think it's that big of a deal. I'm comfortable with whatever Neil says. I just think with these, we got to be cautious because one isn't exactly like the other one. And
Yeah, I agree with you.
we can open the door to something that
Yeah.
I think in the future, if we're waiving these things, if it was just because of litigation, I think we'd have a dozen people lined up at our doors saying, my turn. I'm in litigation too. So that's why I said, I can't imagine someone else is going to show up with the same thing.
I hope not.
If they
For their
did.
sake. So, go ahead.
So do you want to amend this in the second line? It says, waives the site plan fees in reference to the new submittal for approval of a site plan, da-da-da-da-da. And then by reason of the discovery of Native American remains as set forth in the letter.
Sure.
I think that's the best way to do it.
So moved. We have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0.
Was that the motion on the amendment?
That was the motion
Are
on
we
the
gonna have two?
amendment.
Motion on the amendment.
That was the motion on the amendment.
So a motion on the amended resolution?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Abstain.
Motion. That
Thank you very
first
much.
one passed 6-0, that one passed 5-0 with one abstention.
Stefan,
right.
don't be surprised. They have that prime uni for the same reason.
Really?
No, that's.
They'll ground right in the property. Yeah.
All right, where are we? I'll read 21. Be resolved that the Town Board of Town of Poughkeepsie is hereby set the 5th day of November 2014 at 7 p.m. at Town Hall, 1 over Rock Road, Poughkeepsie, New York, as for the date, time, and place of a public hearing to consider amendment to Chapter 110 entitled Fire Prevention, specifically 110-16, licensing of oil and gas and liquefied petroleum gas heating equipment of contractors, which amendment is attached here to, see attachment, and be further resolved that the Town Board of Town of Poughkeepsie has determined that this action is type 2 action requiring no environmental review, and be further resolved that, if adopted, said local law shall become effective immediately upon file with the Secretary of State. So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second. This is what we talked about last week, the kind of making the examination,
So it can be done computer-wise?
yeah.
Wait, so
Yeah.
right now we license people that are installing heating equipment.
Yep,
Right,
Going to make them take a standardized test versus.
right.
instead of the,
Instead of a written exam prepared by a fire inspector. But I have one question, Neil, because currently we don't charge a fee for this. And when they have to take this exam, they will be charged a fee, but by the company administrator. We will have nothing to say about the
Right,
fee.
right.
So do we have to say something in our fee code, or is it,
it's not a fee coming to us.
it's not a fee from us?
It's being, yeah, right, it's a fee that's charged by the testing company.
Company.
Yeah, what right now, what we have are actually 3 written tests, and they're given sort of on a cyclical basis. But they've been the same tests that have been in use for a long, long time, so.
Eventually you pass.
Yeah, at some point, you're going to pass. So,
Well, actually, Dad, they've had guys come in and take it, by the 4th test, they start catching on.
yeah, well, that's the same.
And
at
they've
some
actually
point,
had to
right.
take all 4,
Right,
so
we
yeah.
want to
Come in the
move to
morning,
the
come back in
online
the
test.
afternoon.
You show up at a testing center, but we want to be able to authorize the fire inspector to review which test and which testing center gets used periodically. That's the language change that would allow him to do that.
I've kind of mentioned this before. I think we need to take a look at our licensing requirements in general, because my concern is that we may be too tight with some of these things and too restrictive. And the problem with being too tight and too restrictive is that you restrict out competition to the detriment of the taxpayers and residents of the town of Poughkeepsie. And when you license everybody out but a small select group, create a situation where the cost of that service goes up very quickly.
I don't know. We currently have 140 of licensed.
But you're restricting
Yes.
you're restricting people that aren't local. Generally, is what happens, and I think that is problematic. And while I think it's a great thing to use local labor, local talent, local everything if you can, I do think that there's times where if the cost is just too high to use local, it's not unreasonable for people to use a skilled tradesman or a professional from out of the area. And I know with our plumbing code, we require 10 years of experience in order to get a plumbing license. I don't know of any other profession, I can't think of any other profession where you need 10 years of experience to get licensed. And I think some of those things have to be looked at because those have been on the books for years.
I think that's a great job for the Government Operations Committee.
And I honestly do think that we don't want to put our town or our residents in jeopardy, but I think what we're doing is we're driving up the cost of doing business.
Government Ops, Mr. Chairman? I don't know if you're, I'm just
I think it's
kidding.
me. Thanks. But, yeah, and here, it's only 4 years, and that you show that you've done 10 previous installations.
yeah, I generally-
Certainly, that's more than reasonable.
Yep. No, I generally agree with what Steph
And as for the plumbers, I mean, in the current environment, there are so many fees and other things you have to pay that these guys actually prefer to be journeymen underneath a master plumber and be taken care of. By the time you pay the insurance and the licensing fees and everything else.
We shouldn't be another layer and level on that. That's why I said, I think we should make sure that 10 years experience, there should be a direct correlation to that requirement and the work that they're doing. Maybe in some major infrastructure jobs it's required, but changing out a faucet or a toilet or some of these things are doing.
But you don't need a license to change out a faucet or repair a leak.
Technically, I think you
In
need
the
to.
town code, you do not need to have a license to do that. You can do that.
If you install a bathroom in your house, add a
And
bathroom, you need a
You need
licensed
to have a
plumber.
licensed plumber. But if
Know
you're
that,
going
'cause-
to repair a leak or a leaky faucet, you can actually change out the sink. The homeowner can change out the sink, the tub, the shower themselves.
Like I said,
The
I'm not
toilet.
sure the
If
10
they
years
come in and
experience.
pass the test, yeah.
No, I don't think.
Well, and you are the chair
No,
of the
I
Government
think
Ops
that's if you
Committee.
actually want to move your pipes.
And you are the chair of the Government Ops Committee, so I think that's a great project for the
Thank you.
Government Ops Committee.
And I'm
But-
also on the plumbing board.
And in relation to this resolution, we have a motion and a second. Is there any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Motion passes 5-1. J22.
Whereas the town board has received a communication from the Director of Municipal Development recommending an amendment to Chapter 210 entitled zoning, specifically Article 2, Section 210-9 titled definitions. Whereas the proposed amendment is attached hereto, incorporated herein, the town board does hereby waive a verbatim reading of said amendments and does direct that said amendments be spread across the record if they in fact have been read verbatim. Whereas the action to amend the zoning law is an unlisted action under the New York State Environmental Quality Review Act, and whereas the town board has determined that the proposed amendment must be referred to the Dutchess County Department of Planning and Economic Development and to the Town Planning Board for review and recommendation, and whereas the amendments require public hearing. Now therefore be it resolved that, 1, the town board hereby states that because only the town board can consider and adopt changes to the town code, that it is the only involved agency, the board hereby declares that it is the lead agency for purposes of coordinating the environmental review of this matter pursuant to Article 8 of the Environmental Conservation Law. And 2, the town board hereby sets a public hearing on the proposed amendments for November 19, 2014 at 7 p.m. or as soon thereafter as the matter may come to be heard in the Town Hall, 1 Over Rock Road, Poughkeepsie, New York. And 3, the town board refers this matter to the Dutchess County Department of Planning and Economic Development for a recommendation pursuant to GML 239M. And 4, the town board refers this matter to the planning board for an advisory report pursuant to Town Code Section 210-154. 5, the town board directs the town clerk to notify the clerks of each of the surrounding municipalities of a public hearing pursuant to GML 235NN.
Second. Oh, you didn't, you got to.
Did you move that?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. We got a wild group here tonight, man. This is a tough board tonight.
But that one word has,
Do it
because it adds a good use to those. So.
All right.
You gotta be.
Mike, 23?
Resolved, Town Board, Town of Poughkeepsie is hereby accept the minutes of the following
it Bill's turn?
2014 Town Board meetings to wit: August 6th, regular Town Board meetings; August 13th, Committee of the Whole; August 20, regular Town Board meeting; September 3rd, regular Town Board meeting; and September 10th, Committee of the Whole meeting. So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. And the last one, we have one special consent. Where's our special consent? Do you have it, Bill?
Yeah. Be it resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Poughkeepsie does hereby grant special consent to the following items to it. 1, notification. The following claim has been referred to legal RBS Citizens versus Morelli Town et al. And be it further resolved that upon the objection of any member of the Town Board, the item may be removed from the list and voted on separately. So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0.
And we don't have to read it because it's simply a notification,
For the
right?
legal?
Yeah, it's a mortgage foreclosure where the town has a lien on property.
That brings us to the end of our agenda. Jay?
You want to do the audience first?
Oh, yeah, let's do that, right, thank you. Make a motion to suspend the rules for public comment on town issues.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Is there anyone here to speak to the town board? Doreen?
So earlier tonight, you talked about prohibiting parking and in certain areas of the town, and I'd like to know what happened. So in spite of the local law that was passed to prohibit parking on Boardman Road and because of the Lord's games, Friday night, October 10th, there were cars parked all over Boardman Road.
Not posted yet, I know that.
I don't think it's posted yet. I actually, just by mistake, drove through there, and I saw the cars parked. They were parked on the west side of Boardman, Lord's side. I mean, I didn't see the signs. I don't think it's been posted yet. I didn't have trouble getting through. There were no cars parked on the east side. There was plenty of, everyone, parked on the grass. There weren't even many cars. Maybe there were a couple wheels on the road, but I had no trouble getting through. Like I said, I just went through by mistake and saw them there. I referred that to the chief. I don't think it was posted yet.
When it becomes it's got to get up to Albany to become local law, correct?
Yeah.
Felicia? And then when we get it back, the police department then
So,
will
but that
post
was
the
back
signs.
in August, so.
Yeah, it's definitely back.
Yeah.
But I think it's probably when they actually ordered those signs and when they had someone to go out to do it.
Yeah, they may have had to order them.
If the car is not parked on the paved portion of the highway, you can't put a parking ticket on it. It might be trespass, it might be a whole bunch of other.
They were off pretty well. There's a shoulder there that.
On the grass, that doesn't matter what we post.
That's interesting.
One of the
That's true.
tires has to be on the paved portion of the highway. That's
If
what
we
it reads in
posted
the
no parking
definition.
there,
I didn't hear you.
even if we post no parking there,
Yeah, we can only post for the street. We can't post for, I mean, you can have no
But
private
isn't
property.
there a right-of-way, like a 10
Yeah, but
10-foot
the
right-of-way?
way the law reads for the parking, it has to be on a paved portion.
So what was the point of the law then? I
Because they
don't know.
can't park, but the point of the law,
Yeah.
Doreen, is that they can't
Yeah.
park the cars on the paved portion of the highway there.
Yeah, well,
But,
anyway,
and I did mention it to the chief. If it hasn't been posted yet, I'm sure it's going to be soon. So he is aware of it.
okay. And the only other thing, for the Wegmans Emeritus site, the assisted living on the corner of Boardman and Spackenkill, the DEC did perform an inspection here, and they had a overall rating of marginal, and they had a number of non-compliance issues. And I wasn't sure why, the town inspects that on a monthly basis. It's inspected on behalf of the town on a monthly basis, and why those instances of non-compliance issues weren't documented.
I think that rating is subjective. There were 4 issues. I have them actually on my desk. I don't think I brought them in. One was the entrance they had an issue with. There were 2 that I thought were really.
There was construction entrance, erosion and sediment control, soil stockpiles, sediment basins, yeah.
So, I think it's subjective. I don't think the town felt it was raised to the level of,
Is that a construction entrance on Spack Hill Road, or is that
No.
is that going to be a permanent in and out?
it's,
Yeah, it's on
no,
Boardman.
it's,
But on Spack Hill Road, is there?
it's where they connected to
It's
the,
where they connected to the electricity.
Okay, but that's not gonna be
Sewer
in-
line and the
No,
water line.
That's the water.
Just so I understand this, because this question has come up about enforcement. We pay an engineer to go inspect construction, and they do a monthly report
yes.
to who?
They do it to me, and we actually go over it once a month. Today I had a construction report, a meeting once a month with the engineer, with Neil Wilson, and we go over that report. This
Okay,
month,
then
for
how
instance,
does, just so I know, so you look at, it says that there was no, whatever, drainage control or whatever it is. And then it
that was
comes in,
DEC that
Okay.
did this based on, they said they went out and inspected it based on a complaint.
how does the enforcement happen then? Do we send?
DEC has to enforce their.
No, inside our town, we have building.
Can you come up, maybe explain it better than me to Bill?
I'm just concerned, Don, about
Trying to tell you.
how the step works. In other words, we get a report from the engineer saying, these are lacking, I don't want to put a negative comment, these things, we're not to compliance on these items.
We didn't in this case. Some have that. We had one on the report that we reviewed today that had we weren't getting some of the reports, what were they, SWIP reports or monthly reports as we wanted to. We're going to issue a notice of violation to the person.
I don't want to get I don't understand.
This case, they weren't.
It comes from the engineer, it goes to the supervisor who meets with our people. How is an enforcement? Does it then go to?
The building
Building
department.
department and they enforce it?
Goes to the building department issues a notice of violation. The applicant's given X amount of time
10
to
days,
correct it.
14
If they
days,
don't correct it, they get fined.
Now, that's an automatic step. In other words, there's not a stop to that. The report comes in, it goes through your process, goes to building, and a violation is issued?
Well, the engineers can make a recommendation, and it's just that, it's a recommendation. This isn't, police work where you write they make a recommendation. In this case, a job in town that we weren't receiving some reports in a timely enough fashion, so they noted on their report to us, to the town, to
And
me.
then we
to
make
the-
the decision to.
We make a decision to issue an
Enforce.
NOV, which the building department's gonna do. The developer, the builder, whatever, will have, as Don said, 10 to 14 days to remedy the situation. If they don't, we will then issue tickets, which is the.
All right, so it's
In this
not
case-
clear cut, this is not
But
a
some
simple
things are
1, 2,
not
3.
subjective, like the construction entrance, it specifically said it was not up to the New York State design manual, and also New York State has erosion and sediment control regulations, so it's not
I
necessarily
don't know enough about that. I'm more concerned about the process.
Yeah, well, let me, if you don't mind, I'll address the issues, the 4 issues that were in the DEC report. First of all, they had an issue. They say that the SWIP was not available on site. We have no idea where that came from. Full SWIP is on site, accessible by the public, was accessible to the DEC. They actually looked at it, so we aren't sure where in the world that came from. The second issue was they thought that there should be more siltation ponds on the site. The engineer, when the engineer designs a SWIP, they use the DEC manual, as Doreen pointed out. They have discretion on the site to make changes dependent upon field conditions. In this particular case, they ran across quite a bit of rock, which of course, rock doesn't erode real well with water. So there was no real need to have siltation basins. And the DEC cited, or didn't cite, warned, or whatever, the applicant mentioned it in their review. The applicant's engineer went back to the DEC in his letter and said, I don't agree. We don't think the siltation basins are necessary at this point in time. There was a follow-up that was done last Friday, and
With the DEC.
with the DEC at the site, the DEC is reiterating their desire for siltation basins. I believe the engineer has finally agreed that they're going to do it or going to recommend it to the applicant. So that was the second issue, and that was something that's gone back and forth. We've been on top of that. We've looked at that several times. We had already had that discussion with the engineer, and Joe Dennis, who is our field guy, agreed with the engineer that at that point in time, the siltation basins were not necessary.
And on this,
So if the siltation basin is all that catches that runoff and stuff, the dirt and everything. So when that discussion's going on, if it turns out that the applicant was completely wrong and should have done it,
we would have pointed that out to him.
but I mean, I guess the whole kind of, I think the concern is how does it get enforced? And I guess what's the turnaround time when all that's going on? Because my concern is that, if they're like, well, we're working over here, we're going to keep talking to you while we're working, and we'll finish up, and then we'll say, yeah, you were right. But we're done.
Certainly some applicants will take advantage of that, and this particular applicant has not. This particular applicant is probably one of the best ones that we've worked with in the town of Poughkeepsie. And the turnaround time from the engineer for the applicant does a weekly inspection. Usually, by the time we see that weekly inspection, which is maybe a couple of days later, the applicant's already fixed those problems.
Yeah,
now,
I think while you're going through a construction site, there's a lot going on, right? So I think while you're going through the process, it's reasonable to have a little flexibility there. What I wouldn't want to see is where the flexibility becomes taking advantage, and I think in the situations, and I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but in the situations where the applicant's pushing it, we put a stop work order in.
Yes.
Yeah.
So when it seems foul, we stop it.
And that meeting takes place in our town with our supervisor and
which meeting?
you involved.
Yes, the town is the responsible MS4. If the town doesn't do its job, then it can be the oversight is by the DEC.
I think, are you referring to the meeting that I have once a month to go over the construction
No,
report?
I don't care how.
I don't know what meeting you're talking about.
Okay. I'm just trying in my mind to go through the steps from when we get a report from our own engineer saying this is not right, how we get it down to the point that somebody goes and gives them a notice. And if I'm understanding it right, we get the notice in from our engineer.
Yeah.
Not DEC or anybody. This is our engineer saying there's a problem on this site.
Yep.
That comes into a meeting. Now, that could be a
Yep.
phone call, or some kind of correspondence.
They put it on their monthly report.
Communication.
Yeah.
At that, then maybe our engineer says, this is wrong, this needs to be enforced. Then we make the decision to have the building people.
In this case, I can talk about today's report because it's very fresh in my mind. The engineers recommended we issue an NOV. Notice of violation.
Notice of violation. Okay.
I agree with them. At our meeting, we were talking about it. There's 13 major projects we're reviewing our construction report. All were fine other than this one. And this one, it's a reporting lapse.
I'm trying to understand.
I'm trying to explain it to you. I'm just trying to explain it to you if you let me. They recommended a notice of violation. I agreed. I think Neil agreed. So the recommendation was that they be issued a notice of violation. As Don said, I don't know if that gives them 10 days, 14 days to correct that. They haven't corrected it after that time. We haven't gotten those reports in hand. We'll issue tickets. Okay. That's the process.
That's what I wanted to
Now, when DEC went out on the 10th to re-inspect this site, all the issues were corrected other than the one issue that remained, which was this discrepancy that between them and the engineer for the applicant over this retention basin. The other ones were not noted on the report.
They weren't noted on the report, and I was going to get to that because the applicant didn't fix them all. Now, we mentioned that he didn't fix the siltation pond. He also didn't fix the soil and erosion control piles because the piles were considered an active pile. And in that case, you put soil, you've got vehicles moving dirt in and out, so you put up some soil and erosion control, and then you take it down because you got vehicles going in and out. You're supposed to seed it if the pile is not active within 14 days. They didn't do that. So basically, on that issue, they did nothing. The DEC went back out on Friday, did not even bring that up in their report because it was explained to them. On the other issue, on the construction entrance, I actually had a memo from Morris Associates from Joe Dennis the day before the DEC went out, and it said that the stone in the construction entrance needed to be refreshed, it needed to be lengthened, and that they also needed to set up a long-term maintenance plan to have either, a water truck or something to wash the stuff off or replace it. So all four of those issues were being worked on by the town. At the time, I say they're being worked on. We didn't work on the SWIP because there was nothing to work on.
Okay. I understand it now. That's okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for delaying our meeting, Noreen. Mr. Armstrong. Uh-oh.
Commissioner.
Uh-oh. Yeah, well, we're not going really at this point, so might as well stay.
Just clarify me with this Country Club Estates thing. This Morris Associates, the $70,000 that they're being paid comes out of the $1.4 million, I assume?
Yes, yeah,
And what are they doing, elimination connection, or telling them how it's supposed to be hooked up to the new pipe?
Yeah, I mean, it's
To
all
bypass this plant?
It isn't anything new. It's all in the numbers you were given. It just is a little closer view as we're starting to get closer towards this project being completed, so.
Is it that involved? It costs $70,000 to tell them to turn, make the pipe go
Anytime
this
you
way,
deal
that
with
way?
sewage, people,
Thank you.
you see, gets nervous. Anybody else?
I have one thing I'd like to say just before we end. Just because it's Fire Prevention Week, I'd like to let people know that Fairview Fire Department and our Town of Poughkeepsie Police Department responded to an accident at Fairview and Cedar where two cars collided at the intersection and the Jeep flipped over. A girl was able to climb out of it, and I'm telling you that the roof was crushed. But I just want to say that our first responders responded very well, and being that it was Fire Week, I'd like to give Fairview a shout out that they did a great job getting there with probably within minutes of my 911 call, and they blocked off all four of the intersections, and it was actually very good. So I just want to say thank you for your work, your dedication, and our police department did a great job as well. So thank you.
All right, anything else?
Motion to adjourn.
Be resolved, the Town Board of Town of Poughkeepsie does hereby adjourn to executive session to consider the following matters, to wit, 1, confidential communications between attorney and client, Town Board based on attorney-client privilege. 2, information relating to the current and future investigation or prosecution of criminal offense which would imperil effective law enforcement if disclosed. Be it further resolved, there will be no action appropriating money. So moved. Never heard that one before.
No. Second.
Motion is second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Board adjourns to executive session at 8:40 PM.